So we're going to sit in the first 3 tables. We're going to talk about circumference and area of a circle. So let's see. Okay. So, what do you already know about circumference? What's circumference? Have you heard that before? Okay. What is the circumference? Maybe if we had to write a definition for circumference, what would we say? What is circumference? Okay, the perimeter. That's a great way to say that. So remember, we're sitting in the first 3 tables. Thanks. Hello, we're going to sit in the first 3 tables. So find a spot in the first 3 tables. So circumference is the perimeter of a circle. So if we were going to draw a picture of that, we would have our circle. We have our center of our circle, and we would just walk all the way around our circle with our measuring tape, and that would tell us the perimeter of our circle. So the distance around our circle. Okay, we are going to need to calculate that today. We're going to need to know that this week, and then we're going to use the circumference and the area next week when we talk about just pieces of our circle. So we're going to talk about sector area. We're going to sit in the first 3 tables. So go ahead and find a spot there. Okay, so circumference is equal to, do you remember what it is? Pi times our diameter. The circumference is also equal to pi times 2 times the radius. So let's go ahead and label a triangle, or not triangle, circle. Last time we were talking about triangles. So if we have our center and we have this distance from the center to any point on the side, what would that be called? Is that we have diameter and radius. Which one is this? That's the radius, good. The radius of a circle, I don't know, I keep saying triangle. Radius goes from the center of a circle to any outer edge. So this could be a radius. We could draw one over there. Anytime we go from the center to an edge, that's a radius. Okay, then let's go over here. Let's just draw another circle. I'm just going to draw another one. Oh, maybe I should draw it down here so we have some space. We'll do it there. So if we have a center of our circle and we go from one side all the way through the center, it has to go through the center to the other side. That's the other measure that we have. That's the diameter. So the diameter goes from one side to the other side of a triangle, or excuse me, of a circle, but it has to go through the center. So it has to go through that center of the circle. Okay, question so far? Does some of this look familiar? Blank stares. Okay. Let's see. Oh, the other thing that we might notice, how many radii do we need to have to get to a diameter? 2. Good. So if I look at this, I have a radius here. I have a radius here. So for 2 radiuses, we get 1 diameter. So we are going to have to use this on our assignment. Sometimes we get the radius, sometimes we get the diameter, sometimes we need the other one. So if we have the radius and we multiply by that by 2, we can get the diameter. If we take the diameter and we cut it in half, we divide by 2, that will give us our radius. Hello.
Hi. Anyone have a topic saying hi? How you guys doing? Good. Last day of the week for you guys. Exciting. Yeah. Everybody's good? Keeping busy? All right. Hey, let us know if you need anything. Okay?
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so that's the circumference. Those are things that we need to know for the circumference. The next part we need to talk about is the area. So the area of a circle. So I'm going to scoot this up a little bit. When we talk about area, what are we talking about? Okay, good. The inside. The inside of the circle. Excuse me. So if I drew that, remember the perimeter was we walked around the outside. So this would be, if we measure the perimeter, let's do this really quick. If we did this, this could be like meters or feet or centimeters or miles, depending on what unit we're using. But we only get 1. When we come down to the area, that's 2-dimensional. So we have all this area on the inside. When we measure area, and we label the unit for area can be meters squared, or feet squared, or miles squared, or centimeters squared, or inches. So any unit of length, but we have to square it because it's 2-dimensional. We have centimeters times centimeters. Okay. So on our assignment has units. I need you to make sure that you are writing the unit, the correct unit. If it's a perimeter, you don't square the unit. If it's an area, you need to tell me that it's an area by squaring the unit. Does that make sense? We're okay? Okay. All right. So we also need to find the area for today. We're practicing the area today. We're going to use the area next time when we talk about sectors. All right, and arcs. So the area of a circle, does anyone know this one? Oops. The area of a circle is pi times r squared. So that's going to be really helpful for us when we are doing our assignment. So this is really important. The circumference is really important to know the equation for the circumference. And we also need to know a radius is from the center to the edge, diameter is from the edge to the edge through the center. Okay, questions so far? Okay. All right, that's all we need to know before we get our assignment. So I'm going to hand you the assignment and we'll do a few together. And then again, so if you're new, if you can do this without us doing the examples, you can move ahead of us. So just so you know, you don't have to skip with us. If you're ahead of us, go ahead. But we'll do a few of these together. Okay, so part of this, we need to read the instructions and figure out what we're being asked to find. Not that you can have, but that you can borrow. So. I think I have a few, but I need it back. What is your other set of your Chromebooks? Or you just forgot one? Okay, anyone else need a pencil? Or... Okay. All right, the other thing you might need is a calculator. Let me hand those out too. So you can use your calculator. You can use your Chromebook calculator. If you're used to Desmos, that's a great Chromebook calculator. I will use this type of calculator, and I have 11. If you need to borrow one. Just make sure I need my calculators back. So as long as you put them back when you're done. Oh, sorry. I keep thinking those. All right. So this section says find the area. So above this section somewhere, I'm going to write the equation for area. Area equals pi times the radius squared. So remember, the radius is from the center to the outside. So we might get a diameter, we might have to cut it in half to get the radius. So let's do this first one together. So area equals pi times the radius. Is this the radius from the center to the edge? Yes. This is the radius. So all we have to do is area equals pi times 12 squared. And then I'm going to plug this in my calculator. So see if you can find the pi button. Let's see. This one is here. Your calculator, if you're using yours, just make sure you find your pi button. So it's pi times the radius, which is 12, and then squared. There's a few different ways I can do squared. There is a squared button right here. I can just push that, and that will, do you see that gives me the little squared? This one right here, it's x to the 2. Oh, pi. Pi is right here. This like funny, it's like almost like an animal. It has legs and a head, sort of. Okay. And then you find that. Okay, remember, these all have units. This one's in inches, so we need to label the unit. And oh, also this says round to the nearest tenth. That means the first decimal place. So we're going to look at the second decimal place. The second decimal place is an 8. So then we go back to the 10th place. This is a 3. We're going to, because this number is bigger than 5, we're going to round it up to 4. So this will be 452.4. Are we okay there? Okay. So let me try to fit my arm in here. 452.4, and then I need to label the units. This is in inches squared. And that tells me that this is an area. This is not a length, this is the area. Okay, we're doing okay so far? Okay. Let's see. So how good are we feeling? Do you want to do like a lot of examples of this, or you feel like a few more? Okay. All right, let's just keep going to number 2. So again, if you think you got this, you can move ahead of us. That's okay. But if we need some more examples, we can do more examples together. So area is pi times my radius. Is this the radius? We're going from the center to the outside. Yeah, that's the radius. So pi times the radius squared. And then I just plug that in my calculator. So pi, oops, I don't know what I'm doing. So pi, there we go, pi. There's my pi button. Times, the radius was 14, and then squared. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to keep using this squared button. There's a few other ways to do squared. So if you have a different way you like to do it, that's fine. You could do 14 times 14. You could do 14 with this caret and then a 2. Lots of ways. Okay, and then our area is 615 point. Oh, and then we need to round to this decimal place. So we need to go to the second decimal place and decide. This is a 5. So we're going to round up or down? Up. Good. So then this one will be an 8. We're going to round this one up to an 8. Does the rounding make sense? Are we used to that? Okay, let me know and I can walk you through that. All right, and then what should our units be here? What unit? km squared. Very good. Okay, that's your answer. Okay. So there's 2 more picture ones. Let's go down to number 5. Number 5 doesn't have a picture, but we're going to do it the same way. Okay. So we're going to find the area. The area is pi. I can keep referencing my equation in your notes or on your paper. Pi times the radius squared. Oh, it gave me the radius. I don't even have to look at a picture. Pi r squared. And then I type that in. So pi times my radius squared. And that gives me, this says 21 point, and then I need to go to my second decimal. 3. Is 3 gonna have us round up or down? We're gonna round down. It's less than 5. We're gonna round this number we're gonna keep it. 21.2. Get rid of the other decimals. Okay. So we've done 3 areas. Are we okay with that? You think you can do the rest of the areas? Okay. Let's go ahead, let's go down to the circumference. So down here it says, find the circumference. So let's see. Let's put it right here. I'm going to put mine right here. You can put yours wherever it will fit. So the circumference is pi times 2 times the radius. Let's see. We might not need this. It gives us it all in radius. So we don't need this, but I'm going to write it down so that you know. You don't have to write this down because you won't need it. Their circumference is the same as pi times the diameter. So it gives me the radius, so I'm going to use this one. But if we had the diameter, we could also, if we had the diameter, we could use this one. We could do pi times the diameter. Does that make sense? Are you okay? Okay. All right. So here we are. We have the radius. We have the center to the outside. That's a radius. So I'm going to find the circumference of this circle. Remember, we're just finding the perimeter. So we're finding the distance it takes us to walk around the outside. Okay. So circumference is pi times 2 times the radius, which is 8. So our circumference is pi times 2 times 8. Okay, and this one says also round to the nearest tenth. So round to the first decimal. So we have 50.26. So we're going to go to the second decimal. This is bigger than 5. So we're going to round this up to 3. So 50.3. And then our units are in miles. So I'm going to label this. This needs to be labeled miles. And we don't square this. This is just a distance, like a ruler. We don't square the ruler. We just square area. Okay, questions about that one? We're okay? We're okay? Okay. Let's do the next one. Again, if you got this, you can jump ahead of us. This one, we have circumference. What should we put next? We're looking for our circumference. What goes next in our equation? Good, pi. Thanks. So we got pi, and then 2. And then our radius. And our radius here, our center to our outside is 8.3. So then we can find what that is. Pi times 2 times 8.3. So then we need to go to we got 52.15, go to the second decimal. This is a 5. Are we going to round this up to a 2 or down to a 1? Up to a 2. Thank you. So 52.2. And then our units are just yards. So we need to label our units on these. And that's our answer for circumference. Okay, we're doing all right? All right, let's flip to the back. Do we want to do one of the word ones? Okay, let's just do number 13 here. So we're still doing circumference. If you need to write that down, you can remind yourself. We're doing the circumference, and the circumference is pi times 2 times the radius. Oops, there we go. So here we're looking for the circumference again. So we're going to find the circumference. So our circumference is going to be pi times 2 times the radius. And they give us the radius right here, so we can just write that in. 5.2. These are multiplies. Hopefully that is clear enough. Okay, and then I'm going to plug that in on my calculator. Pi times 2 times 5.2. Oh, yeah, it's 5.2. Okay. All right. We're rounding to one decimal place, so 32.67. We need to go to the second decimal. We look at that place, it's a 7. So what does that mean for the 6? It's going to go up to 7. Good. So 32.7. 32.7. Good. And somebody said feet. Thank you, feet. And that circumference, we just need feet. Okay, questions so far? You think you can do those ones? Okay, let's go down to number 17. This is a little bit different. This one says find the radius of each circle. And we're going to use pi. So if we have the circumference, hello, will you come sit in this front corner? Thank you. We're working on some problems together. Here it is. There you go. And there is one more calculator for you. Oh, don't use that one. There you go. So we're going to take the equation of the circumference, which is, we wrote that down above, but let's go ahead and write it here.
Teachers and faculty, if there's anyone in the building that has jumper cables in their car, if you could let me know. If you could help jumpstart a car, that would be awesome. Thank you.
I think I might, but we're busy, so somebody else probably does. I bet the auto shop has jumper cables. Why didn't they ask the auto shop? Maybe she did. I don't know. Maybe they're not there. Okay. So we're looking for the radius. So we need to do some algebra. We have the circumference, but we're looking for the radius. So what I like to do is I like to solve this equation and then plug in my numbers. So that's what I'm going to do. So if I want r by itself, what do I need to do? Good, perfect. Move pi and 2. So these are all multiplied. What's the opposite of multiplied? We're going to divide. So we're going to divide this side by pi and 2. I'm going to draw over this. Divide by pi and 2. So then our equation will be for the radius, this will simplify to 1. Our radius will be our circumference divided by pi times 2. Are you okay with that? Do you see how we got there? We just decided we need the radius. This stuff is in the way. We need the radius by itself. So we're going to divide off on this side pi over 2. So we have to do it on the circumference side. Are we okay there? Okay. All right. So then we have the circumference, we have pi, and we have 2. So for this one, our circumference is 62.8. We're going to divide by pi. We're going to also divide by 2. So when we type this in our calculator, we have to be a little bit careful. We're going to need to put parentheses around this so our calculator doesn't accidentally move the 2 to the top. If we don't put parentheses, our calculator thinks it's too smart and it will move the 2 up. So we don't want that to happen. So we're going to do our circumference, 62.8, divide by parenthesis pi times 2, end parenthesis, and this will tell us our radius. That's what we're looking for. That's the point. And this one also says to the nearest tenth. This one's kind of tricky. We have 9.99. So we go to here, it's a 9. That's bigger than 5. So we're going to have to move this one up. This one becomes a 10. That makes this one a 10. So our answer will be 10. Our radius is 10.0. Are we okay with that? So think about this. We have 9.99. Is that closer to 9 or is it closer to 10? It's really close to 10. It's only 0.01 away from 10. So we're going to round it to 10 with 1 decimal place. Are we okay with that? Does that kind of make sense? That's kind of weird, but once you're like thinking about it, it kind of makes sense. Just because this is really close, we're going to round it up to 10. Are we okay? Okay. All right, we also need units. Our radius is a distance, so we're going to use just miles. We don't need the squared. Okay. All right, oops. Okay, so for 18, 19, and 20, you're going to follow the same pattern. You're going to take your circumference and divide by pi times 2 in parentheses, and then label the unit. So I'm going to let you guys try those ones, the rest of those. Let's see. Let's do one of these. Let's do 21. So this one says find the diameter. So this one's kind of interesting. We're looking for the diameter on these ones. 21 and 22. So I'm gonna do this one with you and you're gonna follow this pattern and do number 22. Okay? So this one has the area. We're looking for the diameter. So area is pi times the radius squared. The radius, if we take the radius and we multiply by 2, then we will have the diameter. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to solve for the radius here. If we can get the radius by itself, then we can find the diameter. So we have the area. We don't have the radius. So area is 201.1, and that equals pi times, we don't know the radius, and it is squared in our equation. Okay, are we okay so far? All we did was we said, I'm putting the area, this is the area, I wrote it instead of writing A. Are we okay? Okay. I'm just putting this paper here so that I can write over the top here. The next part is we need to solve for R. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to move this pi. So we're going to do the same thing that we just did. We have pi times r squared. So up here, just like we did up here, we divided by pi. We're going to divide by pi on both sides. So divide by pi, divide by pi. This will simplify to 1. Pi on the top, pi on the bottom, that simplifies to 1. So now we have r squared on the right, and we have 201.1 divided by pi on the left. And I'm just going to leave that as a fraction for a minute. Okay, so now we have r squared on the right. We just need 1r though. Does anyone remember how to do the opposite of squaring something? How do we get rid of that squared? Square root. Good. Have you seen that before? Square root? Maybe I'll show you and you can see. So if we do this symbol, square root, does that look familiar? Okay. Square root on both sides. So if we do it on the right to get rid of that squared on the r, we have to do it on the left. So now we got rid of the squared. So those cancel out. That's why we did that. We needed the r by itself. So now r is by itself. Now we can put this in our calculator. Okay, we're okay so far? Okay, so I'm going to put that on my calculator. So I'm going to do second. And then we use this button already for squared. Oops. Where is it? There it is. This one is the squared button right here. So if I do second and that button, it gives me this square root. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm doing square root, and then I'm doing this top number, 201.1, and then I'm dividing by pi. And I'm just using my calculator's button for pi. And then I like to put the end parenthesis on. Okay, question so far. Does that make sense? You're following? We're okay? Okay. Because you're going to have to do this on the next one. All right, and then we're going to round to the 10th. Look, there's no number on the second, so this will just be nice. This will be, the radius is 8.0. Okay, but what did it ask us for? Let's go back to the question. It says, find the diameter. So we found the radius. We have to do one more step. What do we have to do to get the diameter? Times, we're going to times. So we have the diameter. The diameter is 2 times the radius. So 2 times the radius will give us the diameter. So if we do 8 times 2, that will give us the diameter. What's 8 times 2? 16. Good, you know that one. Sometimes I know that one. 16, and then this is inches. The diameter, remember, is just a distance, so we don't need the squared part. So this is just going to be 16 inches is our diameter. So will you sit in that next section? Okay, so that will be how you do number 22 also. Ooh, that's kind of fuzzy. I didn't notice that. Okay, are you ready for the next part? You ready? Okay. Okay, let's see. All right, so this part is a little bit weird because there's a pi. So let's go ahead and do 23. Let's do 25. And then this one, if you want to try, you can try this one. This one we'll put optional. If you want to challenge yourself and try number 27, you can. But we'll do 23 and 25 together, and then the rest of them I'm going to have you do. Does that work? Okay. All right, so this one says find the circumference, but we are given the area. So we're going to need both of those equations. So eventually we'll need the circumference is pi times 2 times the radius. We also need to know that the area is pi times the radius squared. So this is another one that we're going to have to use some algebra and figure out. Will you sit next to Avery? Yeah. Okay, so we have this equation. We're going to use this equation first. So we've got area, 64 times pi, that's the area. So we're good there. Okay, equals pi times the radius squared. So I'm setting this up because I need to find the radius. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. All right, so what are we going to do first? We've already done this 2 times, kind of, so a little bit different. What we have to get radius by itself. What should we do? We're going to divide off the pi on both sides. We want r by itself. The first thing we're going to do is divide by pi, divide by pi. Pi cancels out. Pi cancels out over here too. That was easy. So then we have 64 equals r squared. Are you okay so far? Okay. The next thing we need to do is we're going to do the square root. So square root on both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of 64 and the square root of r. Remember, the square root cancels out the squared. That's why we're doing the square root. The square root and the squared are opposites. So we're going to cancel that out. And so r equals, we can just type it in. This one's one that's a very clean square root. So you might know this one already. Does anyone know it already? 8, good. Good. So our calculator will tell us too, but that one you might already know. So the radius is 8. But we didn't need the radius, we needed the circumference. So then we're going to put our circumference in, our radius in here to find the circumference. So we're going to take our circumference, our equation, circumference equals pi times 2 times the radius, and our radius is 8. So then, if we type this in, pi times 2 times 8, that gives us 50 point, and then we're going to go to the second decimal. That's a 6. It's bigger than 5, so we're going to round this up to a 3. So 50.3. 50.3, and this is in miles. So it would take us probably a long time to walk around that circle, 50.3 miles. Okay, are you doing okay there? So you're going to follow the same pattern to do 24. You're going to find the radius and then plug it back into the circumference equation and find the circumference. Okay, all right, let's do 25 together, and then I'll let you work on the rest of them. So the circumference, we're finding the area now. So again, we need both of these equations. We have the circumference and the area. We're given the circumference to find the area. So the first thing that we're going to do is find the radius. So we're going to use this equation. It has a circumference, how it relates to the radius. So circumference is 6 times pi. And the circumference is also pi times 2 times the radius. So how do we get the radius by itself? Somebody remind us. Divide. Good. divide, we want the radius, we have pi times 2 times r, so we're going to divide by the opposite of multiply, divide by pi, divide by 2, and then if we do it on the right side, we have to do the same thing on the left. So divide by pi, divide by 2. So then this simplifies to 1. Then we have, so on the right side we have the radius. On the left we have 6 divided by 2. The pi's simplify to 1. Pi on the top, pi on the bottom. So what's 6 divided by 2? 3. Good, thanks. So that's our radius. Once we find the radius, we need to find the area. So the area is pi times the radius squared. The radius, we just found that, that's 3. Pi times 3 squared. Does anyone know 3 squared? 3 times 3? 9. Yeah, good. So we've got 9 times pi, or we could just type it all in our calculator. Either way. Pi times 9. So our area is 28 point. We go to the second decimal. 7 is bigger than 5, so we're going to round this number up. 28.3. And that's an area, so we need to do something different with the units here. So what unit should we use? We need yards, and then we need to square it. Good. So yards squared, because it's an area. Every time we have the area, we need to say it's a 2-dimensional area, so that's why our units are squared. All right, how are we doing? You think you can do the rest? Okay. All right, so what we are going to do is what we've been doing this. I have the key up here. The key needs to stay up here. You can check your work as you go. There will be a review, so you need to make sure that you know how to do this. So check your work as you go, and then once you're done, I'm gonna make sure that you check your work, and then you turn it in, and I'll just kind of look over it, okay? So as you're going, you can check your work. I will also wander around. If you have questions, I can help you too, okay? All right, yes?